Most of you know, where I grew up and where I still live. I don't have to tell you that. We affectionately refer to it as the fofo. I served many of you as your Texas State Legislature in the House for a number of years, and now I'm humble, honored, and privileged to be the city's mayor. We're facing a crisis in this country. Every day we're losing our youth to unnecessary violence. But where there is a crisis, there is also certainly opportunities. And the opportunities should be available and accessible to all of our kids. I've repeatedly indicated that we don't want to have two cities in one of have and have-nots. It's not just about having more police officers. It's about building complete neighborhoods and giving our kids hopes and opportunities. Before I reached any of the political goals, I, like you, was a child who dreamed big, and I wanted to do big things. Raised by a father and mother who shared many of those same beliefs with all 9 of their kids. And one of the things that I think inspired many of us in this room is that we had hopes and dreams and aspirations. But when kids lose those hopes and dreams or don't have them, then we have a crisis. And if they're living in communities that are burdened and they can't see beyond that, we have a crisis. So it's not about today, MBK, it's not about just doing some incremental stuff. You do a little bit here and a little bit there, and nobody can see the little bit that you have done. But if we want to build a city of champions, then we have to be willing to put in place some transformative things. And in this city, even though there are 250 other MBK chapters, we're not just seeking to be one of 250. We want to be one that leads the way for those 250. So that's where we are. I was somewhat fortunate that a lot of youth today, like many of us in this room, if not all of us, despite the challenges that we face, there were many people who stepped up to the plate. Houston has always been a city of opportunity, a city where big dreams can come true. And My Brother's Keeper Houston is a solution that will bring nonprofits, public and private sector groups to the table to provide a coordinated network of support to eliminate barriers that prevent youth from achieving their dreams. Now, let me just pause here and just say that many of you are doing great things in your own right. No question about that. MBK is not trying to reinvent the wheel, not trying to take what you are doing and say, then we are going to do it. But it is about trying to establish a meaningful, effective network where we are trying to achieve the same thing, and that is to build a city of champions. So it requires a coordinated effort. It requires, if we're going to create cities of opportunity, or people of opportunity, it means that we must first suppress our own egos and selfish desires. It's not about us. It's about the kids that we are trying to invest in. And so we're trying to pull all of this together. It is essential that our city's youth have access to quality education and employment opportunities, as well as a safe environment in which to function and grow. The tragedies that we have all witnessed in Ferguson, Baltimore, Louisiana, and I can go on, can be prevented if we deal with matters on the front end. And as mayor of this great city and a promising city, I am committed to ensuring every child has a formidable chance to be successful from the cradle to college and a career because, one, investing in our youth is a big idea. Building families is a big deal. Ensuring communities are stronger is a big deal, and is an economic imperative if our city is to remain competitive in the marketplace and be a place where people want to call home. We must stand and work united as a city to ensure every child has an opportunity to be a champion, and we owe it to them that to have no school or school district can do it alone, no mayor or council member can do it alone, and no nonprofit or business can do it alone. It's going to take all of us to do it together. And today, my staff in MBK Houston will outline our strategic approach. I don't want to steal any of their thunder, and we are talking about pulling together to execute some interventions that have proven successful in moving the needle. Interventions that will deploy a public education campaign so that parents, the community, and care providers can collectively promote and share common strategies to better assist young children in being more prepared to enter school and ready to learn. Interventions that will stock and staff libraries so that our youth have access to up-to-date scholastic and interest-based books. Interventions that will implement an early warning system and systems of care model to address social and emotional dysfunctions that a lot of our youth demonstrate early on in their development, but is oftentimes overlooked or simply ignored. Interventions that will assist youth in enrolling in post-secondary education opportunities, whether they choose a four-year college, a community college, a certificate program, or just want to have the skills to be able to take care of themselves or their families. And interventions that will provide youth opportunities during the summer to begin acquiring transferable skills that can use a launch a viable career to support their own families one day. And I'm going to come back to that. And interventions that will redirect youth who are in the juvenile or criminal justice system so that they can get back on track. And I'm sure everyone in this room has fractured or bent the rules one time or another, but was afforded that second chance to turn our lives around. These kids of interventions will require us to pool our big hearts and our pockets together to really make a difference in the lives of our city's youth. President Obama outlined the blueprint, and as Ashley said, 250 are working together. But I would like to ask members of my Brothers Keepers leadership team, the Milestone Action Team, and members of the area action teams in the Kashmir, Scarborough, and Wheatley communities to stand up and be recognized at this time. Y'all can stand. All right. Their names are duly listed in the package you received when you checked in today, and it's because of these individuals and organizations that we have made so much progress since former Mayor Anise Parker accepted the President's challenge and launched the MBK Houston Local Action Plan. Again, I want to say personally and professionally, I am personally and professionally committed to ensuring that we do our part and bring others with us to improve the quality of life of all of our children in the city of Houston. We need champion plumbers, electricians, construction workers, solid waste operators, animal care technicians, doctors, lawyers, athletes, or even the next mayor or president of the United States. And I hope you will join us in this effort. And let me just say in closing, we have asked you to come here. And I don't want, as I've said to the MBK staff, to Steve and Judy and Noel and others, I don't want you to come and then leave and say, oh, how are we going to do all of this? You know, and there is no way we're going to do all of this. I'm not asking you to do all of this. I'm just asking you to do your small part. That's all I'm asking you to do that. And I'm asking you, as you listen to the presentation and interact, kind of decide early on what part you can play. But just like our summer youth program, is Juliet here? I don't see Juliet. Is she here? Okay. But when we did the summer youth program, organized for it, we had some kids, for example, who came and looked at the list of jobs and said, we don't want those jobs, okay? Now, they didn't have a job, and neither did they have the money for the job, you know, but they didn't want that job. And then we had some parents who looked at the list and said, we don't want our kids to do that job. Now, they didn't have any money to give to the kid, but they didn't want that job. And then we had some employers who said, we don't want those children. Well, I don't know what those children, well, I do know what those children are, okay? But they didn't want those children. And then we had some who said, we are doing our part. The only problem is that we couldn't see our part that they were doing, okay? We cannot criticize when things are going wrong and kids are going astray, if somebody is doing something we don't like, if we haven't done our part to mitigate the risk of that type of behavior. So I know it's in many ways it seems so massive, and so the job is so large, but I do know that if we work collaboratively, okay, then I think we can have some significant progress in addressing the situation. But I am committed to it. This is, for me, it's one thing to fill a pothole. And let me tell you, we have been very successful. But stay with me, I'm going somewhere. We have been very, very successful at filling those potholes, defined by 5 feet by 5 feet instead of 2 feet by 2 feet. And we have done it, employees have done it successfully by the next business day, 95% of the time. When people told me on day one, when I made that statement, when I was being sworn in, and folk called, and a few of you in this room sent me some text and said, Mayor, we love you, and we don't want you to fail. Try not to make those type of promises, because it hadn't been done before, and kind of wait until you get in there and get your feet wet and know who you're dealing with, and then do it. But don't just come out the gate, because people are going to think you don't know what you're doing. And so don't make those type of promises. Well, some 9 months later, those potholes are being filled by the next business day, 95% of the time. What I discovered, if you don't set high expectations, you will not get the performance. We have filled the potholes, and you all are driving over those potholes, over those streets. But as I bring back Darian, let me leave this with you. There are a lot of folk driving over those potholes that have been fixed, but they have potholes in their lives. What sense does it make to have smooth streets and people with potholes in their lives riding over those streets? If we fix the streets but won't fill the pothole in the human capital, then what difference does it make to have smooth roads? I'm going to make this statement. We will fix the potholes in the lives of our children, and it starts today. It starts today. And if we are not committed to doing that, then what use are we here in the first place? MBK is the human instrument to fill in the potholes in the lives of our children. I hope you'll grab a shovel and start doing it today. Thank you.